As you said, there are the high history and rules about the traditional Hung Gar. So can you explain a bit more about where actually the Hung Gar came from?
Yes. If we consider that Hung Gar actually has a traceable history over quite a long period of time, hundreds of years. But it's also full of contradictions and myths and legends. Not a lot of it has been written down. In many cases, it was functioning in a very secretive situation throughout history. If you look at its origins, it's evolved during the Qing dynasty in China, which was a very tumultuous time throughout history where there was a lot of oppression and a lot of people trying to speak out and overcome that oppression from the government. So it evolved from the 1600s to the 1900s during that Qing dynasty when these things were taking place. And Hung Gar itself came out of southern China. And southern China was dominated by a number of other styles, Hong Kuen or Hung Gar being only one of them. And if you consider the origins further, there is no real agreement today as to exactly where it originated. Some people say it came from a person called Hung Gar, who was a rebel fighter during the Qing dynasty. Other people say it was from Jisin Simsi, who was Hung Gar's teacher, and he was from the Southern Shaolin Temple. And then other people will say, well, there was an underground group called Tinde Woi, which translated as the Brothers of Hong Mun. And I don't know which of these is true, but I guess most people would say it's originated from Hung Gar, and probably because of his surname Hong. I don't know, right. but that's where it stands today. And there were some famous people along the way historically, and I've already mentioned Jisin Simsi, who was originally from the northern Shaolin Temple but fled to the southern temple, and Hung Gar was one of his students. And then there was a student of Hung Gar called Luk Ah Choi, and then Wang Tai was a student of Luk Ah Choi. And he also was the grandfather of Wang Fehong, who passed it on to Wang Fehong, who was the son of Wang Tai and the father of Wang Fehong. So that's generally where it came from. Now, along the way, there was obviously hundreds, if not thousands, of students. And these are only some of the names that we remember today. And as you know, not every student goes on to teach, begins to set up a school, gets a following. But that doesn't mean all of those students who didn't do that were not part of the history. They're all there, but notable people were generally those who began to teach others, set up schools, and took it to its next level, and were very conscientious in wanting to continue what Hung Gar was all about. So if we look in the last 100 years, there are some more notable figures which most Hung Gar people relate to today. There was Wang Fehong, and he was a very famous character and was the subject of many movies. and many of the old Chinese movies are focused on Wang Fehong. And then one of his students, called Lam Sai Weng, was probably the most famous student of Wang Fehong. But as I said before, there were hundreds, there were many. There was even his wife, Mok Guilan, and she set up another branch and so on. So what I'm saying here is not a complete history of every individual, but just the people that I see who were considered the most famous. And then, of course, there's Fong, who was a very dedicated student of Wang Fehong, and was what I call a traditionalist. He was very focused on keeping the tradition alive and did not introduce a lot of new things. Lam Sai Weng and Wang Fehong were introducing many different things. They added to many of the traditional things that existed. So this is how I see the development of Hung Gar. Other people may see it differently, and that's fine. Yeah.
And this is mainly the lineage you find out in Hong Kong or Southern area, I guess.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And some of these Sifu went overseas. There were other lineages developing from Wang Fehong and Lam Sai Weng in various other countries. But certainly in China and in the southern China and Hong Kong, this is typically what we see and what I'm familiar with personally.
Yes, yes. So we after your sharing, we briefly understand a little bit of the evolution of Chinese martial arts and the differences between the traditional Hung Gar and the Liu style of Wushu, and also the historical background of Hung Gar.